We're excited. We're here at the International African American Museum. And I'm going to ask you tell us who's sitting before us today. Your full name, date of birth, and place of birth.
My date of birth, okay, is January 16th, 1928. Um, I was born in Roper Hospital, Charleston, South Carolina.
And your name?
Jennie Mae Jefferson.
Jennie Mae Jefferson.
Mhm.
Born in Roper Hospital in 1928.
Yes, January 16th, 8 o'clock in the morning.
8 o'clock in the morning. They
Yes.
allow Black people to be born in Roper during those days.
I don't know. I don't think so, but
But you were born there.
yeah.
So tell us,
Mhm.
how was it? Now, where were you born? What community did you grow up in?
I grew up in Berkeley County, a place called Mount Holly. You don't hear that anymore now because I think around 1973 we had a new mayor to come in, and he did some research, and so it went from Mount Holly to Goose Creek. So I guess I have to say Mount Holly, but I live in Goose Creek. Yeah, because the Mount Holly, we only have two signs there, I guess for history purpose. But the early years when I grew up, and before that, that area was Mount Holly, but it's in Goose Creek now. So
Now, I was looking through some documentation and it said something about Casey community.
Casey,
Yes.
okay, that's a small community where I grew up. In fact, my parents lived there, so I was born in Charleston. I grew up in the Casey community, and that came about because there was a white family, a mother and a son that came from somewhere, I don't know where, but she donated some property for us to make a church, build a church. And at that point, I was told that the existing church was made from poles. It was a pole church. And so the lady and the son donated the property, and the church family, built a board structure. And so they named the church after the son and mother that donated it, and it became Casey. And it was growing church. And from then on, we had it until the 70s. We had a merger with other churches, and we lost that area, but that name, and the place. But the graveyard, the cemetery is still there, so we have, and the land is still there. So
Now, you have family members buried in that graveyard?
all of many people buried in that graveyard. All of my family, most of them that lived in the area, buried there.
Now, your parents, where were your parents from originally?
Right in the same area, both mom and dad.
Mom and dad.
Hmm.
Now, how many brothers and sisters?
I think there were 7 children or 6. Only 2 survived, a brother and me. Okay.
Beautiful.
Hmm.
So, as a child, do you recall your parents, your grandparents and parents? What were some of the lessons that they instilled in you, some of the values that they instilled in you that you would want to share?
I did not see any of my grandparents. They were all dead by the time I came. So I saw no grandparents. I just heard about them, that kind of thing. I had a step grandmom, and that was only grandparents that I experienced. You know,
And your parents were sharecroppers?
no, they were not sharecroppers because my grandfather, I don't know how he did it, but he bought 55 acres of land, and the family still have. I mean, it's shared, but my home is on no, that's my husband's property. My home is on the property that we have, but part of it was sold, and a school is on part of it, but we still use the property.
Okay, beautiful. So you grew up in the 30s and the 40s. What reflections do you have of us, for us? What memories do you have of family life and childhood growing up in the 30s and the 40s?
The families were, um, I say this, they were loving people that cared about each other. They did not have a lot of wealth, a lot of funds, that kind of thing. And I think because of that, you had more love and close feelings among each other. When one hurt, they all hurt. No one had a lot of things that they accumulated, but what they had, there was always sharing. If I had vegetables and you needed, I'll call. But they didn't call. That was but I'll share it. I'll share it. You could come and get mine. We didn't have undertakers back there, so when there was death, then the neighbors, someone from the neighbor would come over and get that person a bath, and they would get them dressed, and then the body would stay in the house at night, and they would come and be there with them, and then the next day, we had a casket maker. My uncle was one of it, the coffin makers for a while, and so they would have that made, and then that person would sleep. That person would stay at the house rather that night, and they'd have them dressed, and, had a bath and dressed. And the ones who want to would come and look at them, and then the next day, whatever time they would have the funeral, and then the horse or the ox and wagon would take it to the cemetery. Somebody dig the grave,
Wow.
and that was how it was done.
And so all of the preparation was done there at the home.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And you remember that?
Mm-hmm. I went with my mother to many houses, and because the person had to be bathed
Right.
and dressed, and they would have it like in the corner, and you go and they would have something. I don't know what they call it, over the face, and then you would go and look at them and sit with the family, and then the next day the wagon would take the body to the gravesite and have a service.
Wow. I've heard people say when my room becomes a public hall. And so I guess that's what they're referring to.
Yeah.
If your space, your personal living space became
Yeah.
the public hall for folks to come and view.
Correct.
Okay. But the services were normally at a church.
And the graves, I think, were 6 feet deep then, because it was made, the coffins were just board. And I guess, and then they didn't do the 4, no, the 6, that's right. I guess because the board would rot, and I guess the deterioration of the body would probably be noticeable, so they went deeper. The decoration on the casket, on the grave, would be the items used while the person was sick, like the coffee cup, and the spoons, and the plates, and personal things, is what they would put on the grave site for decorations. But we had no flowers like that.
So once they cover the grave,
Yeah,
those items that
would be on the top. Like they cover it now, and then they put the flowers on.
Yes.
They would put the dishes that person used, and maybe a medicine bottle, just personal items, and that's what they decorated the graves with.
Wow, beautiful. Beautiful.
And then at the years passed, when I guess I was grown then, there would be lots of money on the grave, like pennies and things. And there was a rumor that there were root people who could tell stories and heal wounds, And and if I wanted to have you killed, I would go and whatever you're supposed to do, and I would pay the devil or somebody, but the money would be on the grave. And people would go there and gather the money off the grave. But they would pay the dead body to kill you, whatever I want to do to you. That was the story. I don't know whether it was true. But I know you could, and especially if you were killed, if you had a horrible death, apparently your work would be stronger as a dead person. So I go and pay you and tell you what I want you to do. And they felt like that would happen.
Something else.
And the money would be all around the grave.
Wow. Just pay the dead person to help do what you do. That's interesting.
The spirit.
So let me ask about education. What about schooling?
Okay.
Child.
The school we had, what is it? When I started school, there was at the end of my road, there was a large hall there. So I went to school at first grade or whatever in that building. And then later the parents got together and built a school right in the immediate area. So I went to elementary school in that particular building. It was a 3-room building. And they built.
And how many years did you do there?
I went there until I was, okay, I went to high school. I finished elementary school there.
Okay.
And then, of course, at that time, when you finish elementary school, I live in Mount Holly, which is now Goose Creek, but it was Mount Holly then. So you were about maybe 12, 13 miles away from Monksona. So the nearest high school was in Monksona. You couldn't ride, black children couldn't ride a bus. So when you graduated from 7th grade, you had to go to work in the field or wherever, and that was the end of your education. You got married. I was able to go to school because my mom had a sister that lived in Charleston. And so I stayed with them for 4 years. And that's how I got a high school education. Other than that, I would not have been able to because black people weren't allowed, black kids weren't allowed to ride the bus. And the nearest high school was Monksona. So there's no way you can walk from Goose Creek to Monksona or to go in the wagon from Goose Creek. So there's no high school.
So you graduated from what high school?
Burke High School.
From Berkeley. And what year was that? Do you recall?
1945.
Okay.
I think, yeah, 1945.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right, so you were staying with an aunt in Charleston that afforded you the opportunity to go to high school.
Yeah.
When did college come into play? Did you leave high school knowing you were going to college? Tell us about that.
I think my mother kept telling me as I grew that she wanted me to have a better life than she had because she was the oldest child in her family. And she wasn't able to go to school because she had to help prepare the land, get the land ready, plant the crops and that kind of thing. And so she was not able to go to school, and she wanted me to make sure I got an education. And so I guess that's how I got there, because she was real sure that they were going to do everything that my life would be better than life. Now my grandfather, I don't know how far he went in school because I didn't see them, they were all dead, but his handwriting was beautiful. So I think, white people, I think he must have been one of the house niggers, because that was all the slavery. And somehow he probably managed to get an education, because I saw the handwriting was beautiful. And he was very good at singing. as I grew up, everybody would tell me, "Oh, your granddaddy would turn the church out." When he walked in there at church, he turned the church out with his singing. So he had a beautiful voice, but I didn't ever meet him. And so he had a little bit of education. She didn't get any because she was the oldest child, and they needed her to help to clean the soil so they could plant the crops and rake the trash and that kind of stuff. So she had very little education.
And this was your grandfather. You remember his pictures.
Yeah. And so my mother was the eldest child, so she had to stay home to help with the others, you know.
That's powerful there.
hmm
And so, who made the decision? How did you decide which college, or was that decided for you?
I didn't really decide. Knowledge was not easily handled in communities, I don't think. My mom had some cousins that lived in Monk's Corner, somewhere in that area, and they were telling her that when I finished Burke, that I needed to go up to another school, and so I think that's where my mom got the idea, and she heard about me. They told her possible places. And so when I graduated, then we had what was called, I think I'm pronouncing it right, a genes teacher over in Berkeley County. And so the family member told her to let me go to Monk's Corner and talk to this lady who was over the school, I guess the school system. And so I went and I spoke to her, and she was telling me about the school and how to get there and all of that. And so we decided to go to the one in Sumter, Morris College in Sumter. And so I managed to go. I went to Morris College, and I graduated from there.
Morris College in South Carolina.
That's right.
Now, how did you get to Morris College?
That's a good question. My parents didn't ever have a car.
Uh-huh.
So an uncle or somebody, maybe two cars in a community, and one of those cars carried everybody where they had to go.
Such a community back then.
That's right.
Oh,
So that's how I got there. So my little things got packed, and they took me to Morris College.
beautiful.
Uh,
And so, while at Morris College, you decided to study what? What was your field of study?
I did elementary A, and so I took all the subjects that made up that.
Why elementary ed?
I don't know. I don't think I knew enough to know why, but
You know what they call it?
yeah, yeah, I took. Yeah.
Now, how many years did you spend in the classroom?
How many what?
Years did you spend in the classroom as a teacher?
42 years.
42 years. Hats off to you.
Beautiful years. Yeah.
42 beautiful years. Elementary education. Wonderful. Now, when you started teaching, segregated school or integrated school?
Segregated schools. Segregated schools. That's exactly what. And then I started teaching when I got to high school. I went to Burke, and I graduated in 1945. I went to high school in 1940. I graduated 45, and when I went to Monk's Corner to talk to this lady, she had something to do with the schools, and she told me that I could get a job teaching. And a cousin of mine went with me. My uncle took us, and we spoke to her, and she said, "Oh yeah, I can use you." And then she gave me a teaching job, and I went in the classroom, and I guess that's the only time I'd been in there. In a position like that, I had no clue. I just used common sense. I used common sense, and with the experience that I had as a student, and I put together, I guess, ideas, and I taught the children.
And this was straight out of high school.
straight out of high school. And then they told me that I could get a college education by going to the colleges, in the summer. And then they had um, classes in the evening from different colleges in different locations. And so I went and that's what I did. I went in the afternoon, I went and took some afternoon classes. And then when I got a few little dollars, then I went to Morris College in Sumter, South Carolina.
Wow. So
In the summertime, and I'd say if I had enough money, I would go 12 weeks. If I didn't, I would go 6 weeks in the summer. And then in the regular school period, they had classes from different colleges, like Monday a week or something like that. So I would take evening courses. And I did that. And in 1963, I graduated from college. And I had been teaching since the fall of 45.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So when you think back over your teaching career, what were the highlights of your teaching career? What memories did you share?
The highlights were boys and girls of all status. And the teachers used to kid me and say, leave Miss Jefferson alone because she likes all the hoodlums. And I said, don't call them hoodlums. They're people who need somebody to love them. And they'll say, look at her, see who she's with? But so they were like my personal children. And to this day, I mean, I call them my children. They have grandchildren. And I'll say, that's my boy. And I remember one Sunday, I think it was last year, I had four or five of them got together. They were all men, one minister, and they came to visit me. And oh, that was something I will remember as long as I live. I was just so happy to see my kids. And they still my children.
That's right.
You have that special touch. I don't know that the teachers now, things are so different, will have that relationship. But they were special. I will never forget them. And I had a white child boy that was in a home, I think now, he told me the story that his dad killed his mother, but I don't know for sure if that was right. But he said he had a sister and brother, and the dad killed the mother. And so I don't know what took place with all of them, but he was placed in a home. And so he came to my class with a problem, and he was telling me that his dad killed his mother. And he brought me a newspaper clipping with Our Lady's picture. I don't know if that was the mother or not. He was Caucasian. And he was telling me that when I get big enough, I'm going to Florida because that's where he is. And I'm going to find my dad and I'm going to kill him. And I kept telling him, you can't do that. And this family that he was living with then, they were trying to adopt him. And I didn't get the whole story, but anyway, I taught him, and he was not the kind of child that most people would like. You had to be kind of special to take care of, because he was used to being, I think he made himself more uncomfortable with hate. He just hated his dad, and it was almost like the whole world, so I tried to do all I could. And I did get him to get some lessons. And then the people who he was living with decided that they wanted to adopt him. And they were going through the procedure. And I went to school one day and they told me, did you hear what happened? He had set the family house on fire. And I thought, oh my God, what's going to happen? And so when I spoke to the family, they told me that he would a family would get him and he would be okay. But as soon as they start talking about keeping him, he would do something terrible because he did not want to be in any other home except his family's home. So then they had to send him to an institution after he set the house on fire. And he wouldn't do anything the teacher says. They would call me, please tell me how to let him do this, get him, because he won't listen. And he brought a picture. I don't know whether that was his sisters, but he showed me a picture. He said, these were my sisters and they are in Florida. And as soon as I get big enough, I'm going to find them. And I tried to tell him there were procedures. So I don't know whether they were in Florida. And now I can't remember the boy's name. And anytime I go anywhere and I see a short white man with a head shaped like that boy, I want to say, Lord, is that my baby? And I can't remember the name, and I can't go to the man and ask what his name is. But I just wish somehow I could see him again to see what happened to him. And he, I was able to win the affection that grew, and I was able to reach him, and I think I helped him, and I would want to just see him and say how you doing, if he's still alive. So when I see a short, white, slim guy, I think, I wonder if that's the one, but I can't ask him because I don't remember the child's name, but somewhere in the world.
So that tells me at some point you went from segregated schools to
Yes, sir.
integrated schools.
Mm-hmm.
What was that transition like?
What was it?
What was that like, going from an all-black setting to a mixed setting?
It wasn't as pleasant as one would think, because it was almost like you had cows. No, they're not right. You had dogs in a yard, and then you have your rabbits that you're raising, and you decide one evening, they run around in here together, and I'm gonna put my dog and then see whether the dog and the rabbits would get along. I guess that's a good analogy. And then you worry about doing it, and then finally you go together, and you're kind of surprised, and maybe not that vicious, but similar. And so when it came, you had a lot to think about. And I remember when it came and I was going to this school, they had 2 sessions, and I was on the evening session, so I didn't go to school until 1 o'clock. And so I went by my sister-in-law's house, and my son was going to school, so I took him to the school that morning to help him get started. And then I went by my sister-in-law's, and I said, I spoke to her. She said, what's wrong? I said, well, I came by so you can see your sister-in-law for the last time. She said, girl, what's wrong? I said, girl, if you see all the people parked in the school and the cops, I said, I came, I went, then I got Anthony started, and I helped the other children, parents getting their kids. I said, so Mike starts, they said 1 o'clock. And I guess when I get there, who knows, maybe it'll be the last time you see me alive. She said, girl, go out here, nothing will happen again. And when I went, that whole yard was filled with cops and people. And I parked my car, and I got up and I said, well, Lord, I guess this will be my last walk. And each step I made, I felt like, here goes a shot. Each step I made, I thought, this is it, but I don't have a choice. And I walk in there, and you would think that you were nude, people just gazing at you. And then I went in and went through the formality, and we got our classes started. And it was a tense moment because you couldn't figure out what would happen. And you had to think about the good and the bad and the students, they stared at you and you felt like you were some animal or something, you know. And then as time progressed, and they found out that, maybe you weren't going to hurt them. And I made people laugh. And I would be at my desk, and if I was helping a child or something, they would be behind, and I would see them, they would take their finger, and they would come near my skin, and then they'd jerk it back. And I didn't say a word. And then finally, somebody decided to let it do this. When they did that, then they and then another one will start, and I just ignore them, and I just let them have fun, and they'd go around all the naked part of my shit, and when nothing happened to them, then they would just start rubbing my hand and rubbing my hands, and then I made people laugh. I said, I think they couldn't figure out whether this black would come off. And so they would do this, I think, and they were trying to figure out if it was the skin on here or whatever. So what I did was I did a chapter on when we went to the human body. And I didn't use those words with the kids, but in teaching using the unit on the human body, I talked about the skin, and I said, we are all covered. I talked about blood, and I said, if something happens, what color is the blood? Red. So I said, okay. So if something happened and I'm bleeding, my color blood is going to be red. And then I'll ask a child, what happens if something happened? You red. I said, oh, so we all have red blood. Yes, ma'am. And then I talk about this, and I said, and look at us, we look different. I said, let's think about a pair of pajamas, and we're going to use that as a lesson. I said, if you put your pajamas on, you don't see that, do you? No, ma'am. I said, so let's think about the skin. I said, what about blood? Red. I said, so we don't have any white blood, do we? No. I said, oh, so all the blood's red. I said, so if something happens to me and I need blood, I said, do you think the doctors are going to look for black blood? No, ma'am. And so I just use practical things. And then they'd start. If I'm grading papers, they would do it. And I wouldn't say one word. Then they look on their hands. And finally, somebody got enough nerve to touch the skin, and they rub it. And they tried to get the black off, and the black couldn't get it. And then finally, they realized, I think, well, she is something human about her. And then they would just rub my arm. And I mean, they got to the place and rubbed my neck, and I just let them have fun. And so when we did the human body thing, and I told them, I said, the blood is red. I said, when we go to the doctor and they have to do transfusion, I don't know. I don't think they look for the colored blood, because how you going to find the colored blood and it's red? And I just made practical things. And there was a meat market in my area. So I would get when I did my human body, I would get the animals and bring it and have the animal parts and bring it, and I use that to show the parts of the body. And I mean, it was very exciting, and they just rubbed me, and I just let them have fun, and they realized she is human, she's all right. And then the love started to flow, and I have them now. They want to call when they see me. They're excited, and the white ones. I have a white one that visited me about a month ago and brought his grandson. He's in his late 60s, but he wanted to take me out. I said, I didn't feel like going out. So they came to visit me. And I mean, we You have some that didn't, but they learned to accept. But it was a scary situation. You just felt like any day. And then my first conference, I'll never forget that. I had a parent teacher conference. And so when I went in, you could tell that something, they weren't happy about something. And the conference started, and they wanted to know how Jeffrey was doing. And I told him he was doing fine. And then we started talking. You could see the tightness going. What happened was, each day when they would come home, Jeffrey, well, what happened today? How did you do? Fine. And it kept going every day, fine. You sure? Everything was okay. What happened was, the child was a brilliant student, very brilliant. The teacher did general assignments, everybody was the same thing. So what happened is that Jeffrey would finish his assignment very early. So you bored if you don't have anything to do. So I need to get the pencil and stick you in the back of the head. So he was in the office every day. And then when he got in my room, each day, how did it go? Fine. And so the parents got upset. They thought that I was doing something to Jeffrey to the extent that he was too afraid, and he had to say it. And so we held the first conference, and you could see it, but I just played it softly. And then it turned into a wonderful meeting. And we sat there for long and started laughing and talking. And so finally it was over. The principal came and said, Miss Jefferson, do you think I was going to stay here all day? You didn't think I have to go home? I said, well, why didn't you go? He said, what? You don't know I can't leave you in here by yourself. No, why do you think your classroom is by the office? I said, well, I don't know. I just thought that's the classroom you gave me. He said, we can't leave you here by yourself. I thought, you really? He said, you didn't know that? I said, no, I didn't ever give that a thought. He said, but that's why I can't leave you. You think I'm going to walk out here and leave you with these people? And then I thought, I'm in danger every day and I don't even know it. But it worked out that they found out that I was a human being. And then this black, like I told the children, was just like an umbrella. I mean, a pair of pajamas. Because if you take it off, my underwear will look just like yours. And so I'm human. And so we made it. But it was, and he said, you see where your classroom is? Why you think you up here? I said, oh, I just knew it, so you gave it to me. He said, we have to do it for your protection. And I thought, I guess my life is in danger. But then, as the years went by, things calmed down. But it was awful.
You referred to church earlier, so faith is a value of yours. Tell me about your faith.
Mm-hmm.
Church. Tell me about church. Tell me about your faith life.
Oh, hard worker. I taught Sunday school.
Let's start with the name of the church. What's the name of the church?
Okay, it was Casey Methodist Church to start with.
Okay.
And then in the 70s, there were four churches together that were Methodist within a close range of each other. And so, with the advice of the conference, we merged the three churches together, and they became one. And so, instead of having three smaller churches, we merged and had one big church. And that church name is Joshua United Methodist Church. So we all combined. And it has grown. Now we have a very large congregation and everything, so it's working real well.
And so you work real hard at that church.
Very hard.
That's a church you said.
That's right. Church door couldn't open and I wasn't there.
Now, did you do singing like your grandfather?
No, I didn't get the singing part.
Okay.
I mean, I sing when nobody else here except me. But all the organizations, I work really hard with the children and the different organizations and the churches around and all of that stuff. No, I got.
I'm told there is a scholarship at that church.
Yes,
And what's the name of the scholarship?
the Jennie Mae Jefferson College. Yes.
Beautiful. I'm sure.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
Wonderful. And I love children. And my school kids, they're grandparents now. But I call them all my children. The guy that I was talking about with the family at the beginning, because they didn't want black teachers. I mean, about 3 months ago, he's Caucasian. He's in his, I guess, early 70s now. Well, he brought his grandson over, and then another family, a principal came, and they came and spent some time with me. I mean, you just they like my children almost. That's what I call them. They're my children. We're on the telephone together, and I think I was able to win them over. I think they found out that we're human. We look different, but we're human. And not all of them, but we were able to do some of that.
So you are noted for your work in the civil rights movement.
Oh, that was awful. The civil rights, we had separate, well, I don't know whether that was separate, but no, it wasn't separate, but equal. But anyway, the first thing that was wrong, the books. We had series change ever so often. Our children would get the completed series when the whites, the series had been used, then that would come down to our school. And then on the outside of the cover would say, for black use only. And so if you stop by the store and the kids get off the bus and the black kid has their books because they're walking, and same grade, they have different books. Because when the series come to an end, then we would get the books. I sat down, I had all that written because I thought I was going to read something. But that was how it was. That was, you got the books when they were finished with it. The materials, we had to take care of our own. We would buy crayons and stuff for the kids. A lot of times we didn't get any of that stuff at all before they started, with the merger thing. We had to take the few dollars that we made and buy that stuff for the children. Our schools had potbelly stoves, and the parents furnished the wood, and the girls would be the ones who, clean the desks off and mop the floor and that kind of stuff for a long time. A lot of our schools were built by the immediate community, the black community. The school that I graduated from in 7th grade, the one by the church, the parents got together and they built the room. It was a 3-room classroom. And all the grades were taught in that building. And that's where I went to school before I went to Berkeley. When I walked out of that school, I went to Berkeley for the next 4 years.
Well, you ought to be applauded for the work you've done.
Oh, yeah. But the love that you had when you grew up, it led to that. And I love children. I mean, anybody's child. And they used to tell me, leave the devils alone. She like all the hoodlums. And I said, don't say that. That child is learned. And you just need to love him, that's all. But it's an interesting, it's an interesting job. You get to help so many people. And the kids, you win them over. And I mean, there are 1 or 2 you can't, but not like it is now.
So that you see the difference. There's a difference in
Now it's too, I don't know how you deal with them now because children are sweet, but I don't know what has happened to the ones I'm hearing about. It's unbelievable. And I think it's the time in which we live, I guess. But before you had a few, but you could at least, talk to them and help them.
so we can go on and on and on for days. On and on for days. I'm not gonna do that to you. But I do have to ask this question, maybe two more, maybe three more. Well, we'll see. But I do have to ask this question. You've got a grandson who talks about you often, and he talks about a catering business. What's up with that?
What?
He talks about a catering business. Or a
Okay.
restaurant. What's going on with that?
When he was about, I want to say 7 or 8, maybe not that old, on Saturdays, I forget the channel on television, but I know it was Cooking One. He would be in the bed looking at TV, and he would call, Gama, come here, Gama, look at this. Look what they're cooking. And he would be showing me what was going on television. I had no dream that he was that involved. Or if I was in the kitchen cooking something, cakes or whatever it is, could I help? And he was always busily doing something like that. And then he went to college, and I would never think that college would have nothing to do with food. But he went, and then he came back, and he got him a job. And then he decided he was going to go in the food business. He cooks very well, doing very well.
And you had that's because he had you as a teacher.
That's right. He started it. And I didn't think that he was that serious. That he would be looking at that TV in my bed, looking at that TV, and he'd go, come here and look at this. He just loved the food, and he's doing well.
And what does he call the business? What's the name of the business?
The Jennie Mae Jefferson. That's the name of it. Yeah, she was the sweetest little thing, I tell you.
So you got scholarships there, you got businesses.
Yes,
You've got many views all across this world now because of your fingerprint, the love that you've shared.
Yes, and I enjoy doing, and I still love children. I mean, they're just special. And and some of them, they said the rude ones, and she they call them, she likes the hoodlums. I said,
But these
they're not hoodlums. You can change them.
There you go.
You can change them, and they have a sense of clinging. And several months ago, I had like 4 or 5 men in my house, and they were all my former students. And they were there, and so they came in, and I looked around, and I sat, and I said, now, I know y'all didn't come to visit me. Where is Ricky? What Ricky? I said, Ricky Barnett, Miss Jade. There is Ricky right there. I didn't even recognize the child. Well, he's a old man now. And I said, oh, well, thank you. I know y'all didn't come here without my Ricky. And these are grown people. I didn't even recognize him. I had to laugh. And I enjoyed them so much. And they have different occupations. One of them is pastor of a holiness church, Calvary, big church, and I just thrilled to death by my kids.
Your kids.
Children.
Well, I'm sure that they are indebted to you for life because of the love.
Oh, yeah. My telephone calls and visitation and all, I still with my kids. It's a job that you reach so many people for so many different phases and things in life. And they can come to you and talk to you about, it's just, I wouldn't give it up for nothing. And the worst personalities are the ones closest to you, because you have to do more for them than the good ones. They make a difference when you pull them over and you know that you've changed your life. That's what you're proud of. Mm.
So, in closing, what is the one thing or what is something that you would want to share with the world?
Regardless of what a person looks like, um, regardless of his status of life, there is a need for you to share something kind, something lovable with him, because that may be the reason why he's in the condition that he is, because no one cared. You need to listen. And when you see someone going wrong, don't join it, but try to tell that person or show that person that there's a better way to do that same thing and stay out of trouble. And don't give up on him. I have a step grandson that you would think he was the devil's nephew. He did anything you can think of, he did it. And he has said to me, Grandma, I love you so much because you never give up on me. And on weekends, it was so bad that I had an idea that he would get killed on the weekend. And so I would be in my bed sometime Saturday morning, and I'd hear the siren, and I'd say, oh my God, the cops is coming now to tell me he's dead or he killed somebody. And I wouldn't rest. I would be so frustrated. His life was just awful. And now he has made a total change. And we talk every day. And all I can say is, thank you, God. And all he can say, Grandma, I love you because you never give up on me. Everybody else did. And all I talk and all I did, he just went right on. Something happens, I love him because of that.
Wow.
And anyone else I know, I just gonna call and see how you doing, see what I can do for you. And sometimes people just need a conversation, just need somebody that they know care about them. Because it's so easy to let a person know you don't like them. That's an easy job. But for them to be down there and you try to lift them up makes a difference.
You are a remarkable woman.
That's right.
We thank you. Here at the International African American Museum, we are grateful to have Mrs. Jennie Mae Jefferson in the house. And thank you for sharing just a
Oh, and one other thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Doing our procedure or our process with the schools, we had the big neighbors that came up, the Ku Klux Klan. And they came with their trucks and they brought all that stuff on it. They had their meetings at night and all that stuff. And that was during our school season. And you were afraid to death what could happen. Because I worked when I went to school, they could come by and do anything. You were afraid. Somehow or another, God help us, we didn't have nobody got killed. But they would have their meetings and their trucks and their singing and all of that during the school time. But we made it.
You said somehow God helped. Your faith is real.
Yeah.
You've had faith.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. They ride. On Sunday, I remember one Sunday, I came back from church, and the neighbor across the street, the man was sitting on the porch with a gun lying across his lap. And I wanted to know what happened. The KKs had a march, and he was out there. I guess he was saying, well, you come here, I'll fix you. But I got kind of upset because suppose you had your children, some people go to church, leave the kids home. They could have gotten killed, but we were fortunate that didn't happen to us. But we had it all during that period. It's gotten a little better.
Anything else?
No, I guess things are better now. It's got its bad spots. We have to fight. It's different, but there are plenty some changes. Mhm.
Thank you, thank you,
You're
thank
quite
you.
welcome.
And we want you to enjoy the museum while you're here. But you're going to be hearing more from us as well.
Mhm.
But in the meanwhile, on behalf of Dr. Talmia Matthews, CEO and President, and the Board of Directors, and the entire staff and volunteers here at IM, we thank you for taking time out of your schedule
And
to be with us today.
thank you for having me.
Bless you.
Thank you.